welcome to Glasgow 2024 Presents Meet the Author. And we're here with Ben Patrick Holden, who is author of various things, which I won't list just now, but we're just going to dive into these pro forma Meet the Author questions. So I'm going to just jump straight into number one. Ben, tell us where you are based.
Oh, that's easy. I am based in a small village south of the Wall, south of Hadrian's Wall, sort of on the border between Tyne and Wear and Northumberland. Yeah, it's by the woods, by an old woodland overlooking this beautiful valley that has a rich history. And yeah, I love it here. There's lots of animals. There's snowy owls that fly past my window. There's fawns and badgers and foxes and all sorts of crazy, interesting characters. It's an ex coal mining village where I live here. So it's quite dilapidated in some parts, but I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't like these, like posh bubbles, right? So my hometown of Hebden Bridge in the South Pennines was like very working class when I was growing up there, and it became sort of gentrified, and the magic of it changed a bit. But now I'm here, and it's got some resonances with that place, but it's got the working class roots as well,
Cool.
which I like, because it keeps things real. It keeps you grounded and connected to, like, the salt of the earth people that I identify with.
Excellent. And I think that very much comes through in your work, which we'll come on to.
Right on.
But question number two, what is your experience or impression of Scotland?
I love Scotland, man. Like, I spent quite a long time there, actually.
Yeah.
I was installing small-scale micro hydroelectric power stations for a lot of my youth. My late 20s and some of my early 30s were doing that. And that was living on the side of Loch Tay, not too far from you, just up from Lomond, Tinnabrook, near places near Dunoon, Glenfinart, and I've travelled all over Scotland, and I absolutely love it. There are places in Scotland that are my favourite places in the world. I've got some of my best memories in Scotland. I remember once I was finishing these hydro installation on this really swampy part of the world near just north of the Isle of Bute, and I kept having these dreams of like non-swampy terrain where the ground was really firm and dry and these beautiful golden beaches. And I woke up, I thought, you know what? I'm finished here soon. I'm just going to go to one. I don't know where it is, but I'm going to find one. So I packed up and got everything stowed away, and then strapped all the stuff I could carry to my bicycle and just started cycling northwest and made it to Oban, and still didn't know where I was going to go. And all the ships, all the ferries had set off, so I had to find a little spot to camp on the cliffs. So I did that. I was just watching the bay and the islands there and thinking about where to go. Next day, turned up at the ferry terminal, ferry port there in Oban, and I just got on one, and it went to the Isle of it was going to Tiree, and I was like, yeah, I'll go to Tiree. That looks good because it's flat. So there are no, it's very small, very flat.
Yeah.
So there are no midges because there's no trees. I was like, I got to escape those midges. I've just been harassed by them. But on the way, I was talking to a couple who lived on the Isle of Cole, which is next to Tiree. Have you been?
I haven't been to Cole, no.
Yeah, super, super small island.
Yeah.
And very deep. There was a festival going on Tiree, so it's more crowded. And I wanted to just get away from all humans for a little bit. So I just got off on the Isle of Cole, man, and found a little spot on the hill by the cliffs where these seabirds were nesting. I stayed a bit away, respectful distance, and I could see the Outer Hebrides from where I was, and it was absolutely beautiful. Really, that we talk about the numinous quality of fantasy, and you could feel it there in the landscape, big time. That was a special a few days just on the Isle of Coll doing
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
nothing.
Well,
Um,
you're really you're selling Scotland extremely well.
yeah, I could talk about
Thank you.
memories of
Yeah,
Scotland
I'm
for
sure you
for
could
the whole time.
tell us
Anyway,
more.
there's 8 more questions.
let's
Let's keep going.
let's take it on to your writing. Question 3 is give us an elevator pitch. So it's a short question, if you like, a handful of words. It says here. So nominally, that's 2 handfuls of words. So that about 10 words for an elevator pitch for your book.
I'm not very good at these, and having not actually finished the book, I'll be even worse. But basically, what I'm interested in is oddball characters uh, trying to breathe the soul of the world back into their communities through outrageous acts of courage and genius. You know, I've got this idea. One of the characters would be like sort of a female version of Leonardo da Vinci in a way that makes sense for the world. And I
Excellent.
just love that. I'm attracted to
Yeah.
that quality of genius, but rooted in the working class
Uh-huh.
situation. So
Mhm.
something like that. The magic has gone, but the magic comes back. This kind of book.
Excellent. Excellent. That's a good pitch right there at the end. Excellent.
Right on.
So number 4, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Rum raisin.
Boom. Didn't even have to think about it. So we're back
Well,
to
ice
writing.
cream is a big important issue.
It is. It's a very important issue. You're quite right. The question 5, who is your main character? You've almost kind of answered that already, but if you want to say any more about that.
The main character is someone who's a little bit inspired by my great grandmother, Maggie Todd Hunter, who was actually put in a workhouse. You know, the poor used to go to these
Mm.
workhouses if they couldn't afford to pay their way. And she was actually pregnant. She got pregnant out of wedlock. My character is not like that, but anyway, put into a workhouse. And my great grandma Maggie escaped from the workhouse by tying a rope of bed sheets together out
No.
the window in the middle of winter in a blizzard, and
Oh
then
my
just
God.
off through the woods. So, you know, that was really inspiring. I did this thing called the School of Myth and Storytelling a couple of years ago down in Dartmoor, and that was quite something. So, my friend Terry Windling, who was coming to Glasgow, she recommended I do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and it was really worthwhile, actually. You know, fantasists should be grounded in myth, the deep tap roots of fantasy, you know, or at least have some kind of working knowledge of it, I think. So completely evading the question here, it is that the main character is a young woman who desperately wants to escape the workhouse where she lives, and she has a kind of a father's from this mountain republic where the story is set in the city. Her mother is from this high mountain desert land, who became a refugee, but really the city's all she's known. And she is stuck in this workhouse in a spirit mill. She works in a spirit mill where they force animal spirits out of the water using this sophisticated naming magic. Then they gut the animals, they take their organs, and they calcify them into various powders that they use in the magic in the world. So she's involved in that. She's just carting these big metal carts of stomachs around and nicking a few when she can to sell them to gradually earn some money to get her freedom and pay for an education. Open her own magic shop in a city. I love that. I love that
Yeah.
trope, you know, a young person just trying to make it. It's sort of like the cyberpunk thing of low life characters in a high tech world, but the fantasy version of that, I'm
Excellent.
really attracted to.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It sounds very, very interesting. And having read your writing before, I'd be very interested to read that.
Right on, man.
So
Appreciate
I hesitate over the next question then
it.
because it might not be up your alley exactly, but it might be quite revealing. Question 6, Star Trek or Star Wars?
That's quite a tough one. I'm not a massive fan of either, but I do like both, and I've watched both growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked Voyager when I was younger.
So did I, yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite one. But I just love the outrageous space opera of Star Wars. If I was pressed to answer, I just probably edge just toward Star Trek because of Voyager.
Right.
And we'll go with that. I might change
Good.
my
No,
mind.
that's a good answer. It's a very thoughtful answer. I
What
like it.
about you?
I like it. Oh, steady on. I'm asking the questions here,
I think it's Star Trek.
and I'm saying that so that I can avoid the question because
Tactical.
it's a tricky one. I think I might have to go Star Trek as well, but no, cut. It's not about me. Moving swiftly on to question 7. Have you attended Worldcon before?
If I say no, do I get a free ticket?
No, you get a discounted ticket because if it's your first Worldcon, there is a discount rate. So that's the best I can do.
All right, that'll do. Yeah. No, I've never actually been. Normally because it's always been abroad. It was in Ireland. You went to the one in
I
Ireland,
went
didn't
to the one in Dublin. Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Yeah, I was going to go to that, man, but I felt like, I've not really. All I'd done was some short stories and some other bits, some essays, and I want to go having done a book like you have. I haven't done
yeah.
one yet. I've tried for years and years. You read some of it.
I read it and it was very, very good.
Well, I appreciate that, but I didn't manage to actually finish that one because it was
Not yet.
beyond my skill set at the time,
Yeah,
and trying to do it for 7 years was quite crushing. They say start small, maybe start with a short story or a
yeah,
smaller novel. Ignored that completely. I did get crushed and ground down into dust in the process, but learned some skills along the way, which I'm applying to
definitely.
work. So
Mhm.
yeah, age of 37, have been ground down into dust by my own attempt to make something good, and
Not
I
at
feel like
all.
I'm just about ready now. But yeah, if I manage to do this, I will go to Worldcon. If I do not, I'll give my ticket to my friend Sophie Wren, who is already finished one book and is just about. She
Right.
lives in the woods over the hill that way, and she's just finishing her second book, and it sounds great. So
Cool.
hopefully we'll go together, and we'll.
Well, I would very much like to see you there. It's a very inspiring experience, and so worth it for that alone. And I mean, we look at these things in our own ways. I certainly didn't have anything out when I went to Dublin, but it really galvanised me for what that's worth. So no, there we go. You've covered that one nicely. Question 8, and again you've touched on this already, but what inspires you to write?
Hmm. The Greeks had this word pothos. It's not pathos, it's pothos, and it means an unfulfilled longing with the beyond. And I feel like that is what is behind a lot of fantasy, at least the fantasy I like. I feel it in the fantasy that I love. You know, can name loads of books, but basically that feeling that there's something in the world that's not quite there as much as you would like it to be. That sense of awe and reverence and magic for something kind of wild and unnameable, um, that takes many forms, but it's there in the best fantasy. And I wish it was in the world more. I remember Robin Hobb saying, well, lots of writers have said this, but write the friends you wish you had.
Mm.
And that's good. That's another reason. But write the place that you wish existed, that you wish that you could live in with the people that you wish you could be friends with. And that's the short answer, really. Yeah.
That's a very poetic way of putting it. I like that. I like that. Yeah. So here's the infamous question 9 that you heard about off air before we started recording. Question 9: favorite band or music?
That's infamous. Crazy. That's a good question.
I think
Oh,
so.
I really love Björk. My wife, Laurie Shepherd, who's a singer, introduced me to Björk when we just started going out, and I just fell in love with her music. It's just so good. But I like some of these Canadian bands that have no one have heard of, like Wolf Parade and Handsome Furs, Sunset Rubdown. Some of them are kind of extinct now, but the people that formed them have, you know, reinvented themselves in other bands. But I like oh, there's this song Yefike Enguguro by an African jazz pianist called was it called Hailu something. That's absolutely sublime. I go to WOMAD a lot, World of Music and Dance Festival. That's a great place to discover music. Discovered Daka Baraka there, the Ukrainian band. Absolutely amazing. Actually, to be honest, when I went there when Daka Baraka were playing, I really wanted a shower because I'd not had a shower for like a couple of days. So I went and got a shower. My friends went in to see this band, Daka Baraka. I was like, they're probably just okay. I'll just get a shower. I came back and met my friends, and they came out of the big tent. Like half of them were crying,
Oh
moved
my.
ears by the beat of the music. Having seen them a few times since then, can totally see why. So they're one of my favorite bands, Daka Baraka. I love them. Yeah, I mean, music's super inspiring, isn't it, for writing?
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about the parallels between music and writing, and also between mathematics and music, and something to do with through music and through mathematics. You can be in touch with the invisibles that maybe some fantasists are reaching for in their stories, which I think myth tries to reach for. I feel like human beings occupy a thin sliver of what's out there. This thing we call reality is quite a mystery. All the different animals, the different microorganisms, everyone has their own limited perspective and experience on what that mystery is. And just thinking about that really opens my mind to it. And I think music, one of the reasons that it is beautiful and mysterious is, apart from it can just move your heart really easily, is that it is linked to those deep mysteries of the cosmos to give a mystical answer. I'm a mystical guy. I can't help it.
It definitely does, doesn't it? Music affects us at a very deep level.
Yeah, I was reading recently about these Renaissance magicians like Marsilio Ficino in Florence, like 500 years ago. And they had this whole cosmology and sense of the world and the whole cosmos as like a living animal, and that you can read it, and you can read. They were into a kind of a different form of reading or relationship with the stars, the living sky, and astrology. Astrology was different from horoscopes and stuff that we know today. And then they would create like bespoke music. It was almost like particular medicine for a person's the state of their psyche as it was at that moment in relation to the living cosmos that they're a part of. So that kind of music as magic, that's a super interesting thing. I wonder if anyone's done something like in fantasy about that. Do you know?
Well, funnily enough, I just finished reading Sylvia Moreno Garcia's book Signal to Noise, in which music generates or gives access to magic, if you like, and it's essentially sort of contemporary or recent past. So the music involved is a range of contemporary music rather than fantasy music, so to speak. But it's out there, and there are other examples. But we could talk about that for a long time. I'm sure.
Patricia McKillip was another one. She explicitly approached it in some of her books, but then a whole language does that. There's a poetry when you read it.
The final question is, what are you writing now or next?
Well, I've actually got to write an essay for this newsletter I've got going called Talismans Against Boring Culture, which is quite a fun little project. The aim is to do one a month or one every few weeks, like short, spirited, lively essays on pretty much anything I want to write about. And the idea is it's just a little spell that lands in someone's inbox that gives them just a bit of magic on a Monday morning when they're in the office, getting ground down into dust like I was. That's an ongoing small thing that uses a different part of my mind to the much longer, difficult work of writing a good book. God damn, writing a good book is not easy.
Well, if it was, everyone would do it, wouldn't they? So yeah,
Yeah,
no.
exactly. Yeah.
I've read many of those and essays, and they are very entertaining and thought provoking. So I'm glad to
No, I
hear
appreciate it, man.
that you're writing more. Ben, it's been great fun talking to you as ever, and thanks very much for coming on. I have been talking to Ben Patrick Holden, and please do, as we touched upon, sign up for Glasgow 2024 Worldcon. The ticket prices will be going up at the end of April. So if you're thinking about it, it's a good time to jump in. And as these sorts of things work, as Worldcons and conventions work, we can only invest the money that we have in the bank on the event. So having that up front or as early as possible is good for the convention in general. So if you're on the fence thinking about it, please do sign up. And yeah, there we go. Ben Holden, thank you very much.
Right on, Robin. Good to talk to you.